not on, but hello anyway. I have a big voice. Excited to be here to introduce this film, right? To have a conversation about it. So first off, let's give a warm round of applause.
Okay. Can y'all hear? Yeah. Okay.
Check. Oh, there we go.
We're lucky since we're here in our hometown. We have some crew here. If we could maybe get one more chair, I know they're hard to come by, might not match the white. But I'm joined by, we have our cinematographer there. Yulan, I think you're good to stop filming now. You can come on stage. Yulan also helped edit the film. We're joined by another one of our cinematographers here, Jules Retzloff. Give it up for Jules. And we also have our illustrious producer, Getty Feline, here in the flesh. Would you join us, please?
That's it. Yeah, look at that. Well, yes, amazing, right? Yeah. Who's happy to see this film? My goodness. Right? So, I mean, I know you were. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to have to be a little Oprah-ish. So, I mean, you've been working on this for, I don't know. I know from the producers and the whole crew how long and hard this process has been. Tell me about it. Tell me where it started. I know there's mentors and mentees and blah, blah, blah up in the audience here. Talk about the community that helped bring the idea to life.
Oh, thank you. What a great opportunity to acknowledge. I have some mentors in the crowd as well. Both Olivia and I are nonprofit poster children, so I represent Bay Area Video Coalition till the day I die. We have Jason and also Olivia couldn't be here tonight, but she is the alumni of Black Girls Code. So we do believe in an after-school video program here. And I would say honestly that is like where I was trained in video production. I was with the Bay Area Video Coalition for 8 years. And when I went to college, I studied film theory, so there was very little hands-on applications. And so, yeah, I have to name Jason. I feel like everything I learned about editing, I learned from Jason right here. And so also we were encouraged, with a curriculum of like media literacy to include ourselves in the work and make personal documentaries about issues within our community. And apparently, I never stopped doing that. And so everyone's alumni of Bayback. We love Bayback. So Yulan actually is my partner of 12 years, and they worked, what department were you in?
I did Bridges, and my internship was actually with Cheryl, so yeah.
Full circle.
Who would have thunk?
We've learned from the best. And then, Jules, do you want to talk about your involvement with Bayback?
Yeah, I met Jasmine and Jason in 2015 as a student of the factory, which I feel so blessed. Before that? Yeah. Man, never mind. I'm old. I'm not old. 2011, because I was 14. So Jasmine and Jason were my teachers, which I was so blessed to have such amazing teachers that really changed my life. Yeah, Bayback forever.
Not an alum of Bayback, but I love Bayback. Yes.
I know you didn't ask for an advertisement for Bayback, but that's really it. That's it. That's how the movie got made. No, but I was pitching this for about 2 years. It took 6 years to create. Olivia, I became familiar with her work through collective organizing, and part of my collective is also an audience. Sedum. Shouts out to Bufu. We got one in the back. So yeah. On Olivia's 18th birthday, she taught a class where she coined the term cyberdoula, and I was like, "You're brilliant. I'm referencing you and borrowing your language and how I think about Mavis Beacon." And also around that time, Getty joined the project, and Getty is another one of my mentors. I'm very lucky in that I've been surrounded by a lot of great people in the film world. So yeah, once they joined, then the money came, and then shortly after, Neon co-signed the project, which was really big. And also shouts out to Neon, because then they let me kind of tack on another year and another year and another year, and really gave me the space to also wait for a response from Renee. And we all saw how that went. But anyway, so yeah, 6 years later, here we are.
I love that, right? I mean, I think it's so important for me, too, to be, learning and in the spirit of the people and coming through the nonprofit world where, we are the nonprofit community. I mean, the Bay is nonprofit, right? Okay? Somebody's involved in something here. Some after-school program, I love that. But that really has its, wonders. It has its amazements. It has its collaboration. It actually puts the seeds and the roots to what we can do, what we can think of, what we can create, what we can imagine. I think those programs really create that space in us to do anything. So let's really give it up for those roots in us and all of us. I mean, I come back from another generation of affirmative action. I don't know what the word was back in the day, but it definitely was about go somewhere else and enrich yourself, to enhance yourself, to carry it on. And I do think that the two of you carried on, right? Carried on and carried up and kicked up a storm with this project. Technology, right? Technology as the storm. We all feel so left out of technology all the time. We all feel so invisible and just another dash or a line in that process. What glammed you to technology as the seed to weave you through, the hair weave you through it all, right? Well, sorry. Okay.
No, thank you. I see what you did there. Technology, it's interesting. In talking about this film, right, there's two themes here. Are you FaceTiming Olivia? Sickening. Okay, yeah, we're FaceTiming Olivia. Oh yeah, she might be asleep. Technology. I feel like this is about two areas of interest that I've also had this narrative I've told myself where it's I'm not very tech savvy, or when it comes to spirituality, it's I have a lot of reverence for the people in my community's relationships with spirit, but for my own spiritual practices, I always feel a little imposter syndrome. And so I think it's interesting that those are the two dominant threads here. And also I don't think those things are true, and Olivia has actually really helped me come to see myself as I am tech savvy. I grew up on this computer. I understand how these things work, even if I'm not the one building them.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's me relearning my relationship with things. And Olivia also, there's a 9-year age difference between us. I'm a millennial, she's Gen Z. And I think that coming into this project, I had that kind of ambivalent approach of it's all there. You can't, the FBI agent has everything about me, and it is what it is, the internet's forever. And Olivia, coming from a place of being a technologist and actually understanding how it works, has really empowered me and reminded me, no, you can take control of your digital hygiene, and you can call a data broker and ask them to remove your information like Renee, and you can read your terms and conditions. So yeah, I think for me, there's been a lot of unlearning, and even though I am technically the elder in the dynamic, a lot of this film is just me learning from Olivia.
And me too. I mean, I know. It's always here, take the phone. Here, do this and that for me. From my generation of, I'm somewhere in the boom. I don't even know what I am. I'm not going to even talk about that, right? But it definitely is, technology is that, the thing, that litmus test of do you know, don't know, are you going to just consume, or are you going to take control of it? And it's lovely that you guys took control and that you are giving that to people. Talk a little bit more about the realness of Mavis Beacon. Talk about creating the real. And talk about what you learned about her truth to create the fiction, to create the truth.
I feel so fortunate to be here next to you, because I feel this is the point in the conversation where I cite your work, actually. And for me, I was a part of this nonprofits fellowship with my collective Buku in 2018, and we were surrounded by some really brilliant technologists and artists like Stephanie Dinkins, who you see in the movie, an American artist, and a bunch of 3D printers that weren't being used. And so I think it was that environment that got me thinking about Mavis Beacon, but then it's like Mavis Beacon, why was she black? You Google it, find these weird Vice articles talking about the length of her fingernails, calling her our Betty Crocker. And initially, like the it's like, oh, this is so, like, this reminds me of the Watermelon Woman, like, oh, and like there's this missing character, and wouldn't it be so interesting if we critically fabulated a more dynamic history for her, because I want more role models in technology. And so I think it's really, like, you provided a template for me to think about the hybridity of this film, and so that's why it was also so important to quote you in the beginning of this film, to be like, first of all, this is picking up where something else left off here, right? And like, even this framework for which I'm approaching the film is in many ways like an homage to your work. And I think what touches me and what makes The Watermelon Woman a timeless project, and what makes me very emotional when I think about it, is that you did the thought work of not only imagining a life for the Watermelon Woman beyond her, like in Hollywood, but like we see her get old and thrive and be loved. Like, you went so deep into the archive to imagine like a queer figure who is doing well, and we never get to see that. And so initially, especially because I was thinking about this as a hybrid, I was like, I also want to figure out what the life of Mavis Beacon looks like beyond this. But the difference is, and I think it was also good because it grew me as a creative, where I did have to like divert from the path you had laid out, is that we learned that Renee is very particular about her image. And so it became clear that I couldn't make a backstory for her without consulting her first. And though I would love for Mavis Beacon to be a queer icon and like to have gone into that place, it didn't feel appropriate at a certain point. So yeah, I think of this film in terms of like us confronting like the limitations of representation, right? Like, it gets us on track, and that is what motivates us. That is the seed that plants us. That is the impetus for all of this. And then also you see at a point we kind of stall out, and there's only so much we can do with this fictional character before we have to confront the reality of it all.
Amazing. That's a lovely answer. Thank you. Snap, 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 please. So what was made? I mean, I know what I had to make. I had to make the archive before I made the film. The archive existed of photography, and it was a time period, and the archive was made to fundraise in a way. So when I did The Watermelon Woman, we made the Watermelon Woman's archive, Faye Richards' archive, first to auction off those photos to get money to shoot the film, but then they became a part of the film. I mean, it was crazy because I couldn't afford the archive. Talk about the archive. Talk about your passion for it, the creation of it, and what you had to make that was not in the film. I mean, you made media. You made media to make this character. Talk about it.
I love this question, and it allows me to reveal a little secret. In terms of like, I applied to Sundance. I was rejected so many times for their different things. We still screened at Sundance, so hey, you can get rejected a million times.
All right. I didn't get to Sundance either, so cheers.
It was tough.
Boom.
I got a lot of rejection letters from Sundance, but at one point, they sent me, I had applied for some incubator, and I was moved to the next round. But we have a bad habit, and like, I hope everybody please accept Vimeo links. So when I'm frenzied, I will submit a grant, and then I'll submit a Vimeo link to something else and be like, I'll just replace the video later. Like, if I can get my grant in for the deadline, I'll swap the video out, right? And
dead link it.
Yeah, I dead link a lot. So there's been a lot of applications when I'm down to the wire where I just send a Vimeo link. And in the situation with Sundance, I forgot I did that. And so I was on vacation, and I got a letter from Sundance saying like, hey, your media is down. And I was like, cool, I'll get it up in 24 hours. And I had no media because we hadn't filmed anything, we were in development. And so I made a bunch of deep fake content. And that's where I basically, and Olivia has really encouraged me, this is before AI could do deep fakes, right? So that was also really alluring at the beginning of this project, and then it got dystopian and scary. But Olivia's like, what you did was like appropriation and determinant, which is like, it's not quite the same thing, and I appreciate her for that. But like, there was a clip of Ava DuVernay and Oprah talking about like making a movie based on Mavis Beacon, and Amanda Sandberg starred in it, and Kanye West had a clip talking to TMZ about how he was tweeting about Mavis Beacon, and it kind of just spiraled out. And so I submitted that, and Sundance, I don't know, I probably got rejected again, honestly. I don't think they gave me money. So anyway, I submitted it, and that became a material. And interestingly enough, once we had our first phone call with Renee's son, at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, he found that video and like favorited it. And I was like, oh my God, like what is he gonna think of this? So I also, it was interesting, it was a finesse. I also think it allowed their family to like see the truest, trolliest version of the project. And I'm kind of grateful that he watched that randomly at 2 a.m. just to see what he was dealing with. But yeah, if you gotta submit a grant and if they accept Vimeo links and you're tight on time, you know, just remember to swap the video out at the end.
Still doing it myself, I'll tell you that.
That is so encouraging.
So, like, I mean, you know, you just get it all in, you just swap it out. You know, it's always about a link. You know?
There's a lot of nonprofit people here. Don't change your applications based on this conversation, okay?
Not at all.
Please.
Please don't. But the system works. I mean, you know, it works for us. We found the loopholes. Mavis found a loophole. You know, my characters find loopholes. We all find a way to make our work, and I think that's so pure about the Bay and this sort of form of filmmaking, which is about community, which is about collaboration, and it's about any means necessary, right? And more importantly, it's about the spirit. And I love what you brought to this project. You brought in all different forms of spirituality, astrology, tarot, I mean, the sisterhood, you know, Ashe, like everybody, please talk about like what that level of bringing that into the space really meant for this project.
I'm curious, I think like it's kind of a collective energy. I also, like I talked about my imposter syndrome with it, which is like, when people ask why did we include it, like for Olivia and I, in the environments in the queer community we're coming from, like an altar is a sign of like you're in a safe place. So it's like naturally we would like cleanse and energetically cleanse and set some intentions. But also like, I don't know, it was complicated because it's like on one hand I want to represent like the everyday magic and spirituality and the fact that we are like consulting ancestor before we take onto this journey. And also, I didn't want to give people who are outside of that an opportunity to be critical of it or to feel uncomfortable. And then also, I had to think about the fact that, you know, Renee will watch this film. And I also didn't want her to feel like we were being weird or disrespectful or making light of certain things. And so, like, it's worth outlining, like, I'm not Haitian. And we are making a film for a Haitian woman. And so there was this conversation, luckily for me, I have Getty Feline as a mother-in-law who is like a brilliant Haitian filmmaker, and Yolande, my partner of 12 years, and Jojo, who is also related to the family and did sound for us. And yeah, now's the point where I'm going to ask you to speak about your Haitian-ness in relationship to the subject matter.
I just want to give a shout out. Is this on? Maybe not.
Hello, hello. There you go. To our ritual dancers, Portia Jefferson. They not only brought the authenticity to the narrative in terms of like including this ritual and spirituality part of it, but they actually blessed the studio and opened a portal. And after that ceremony, that's when Walt Belofsky called us as we were looking for Mavis. So the spirituality, I think for me, cinema and spirituality go hand in hand. I always talk about like the magic of cinema, and you wish it and you think about it, and it materializes. And so this film is spirituality incarnate. It's not gratuitous at all. And so when Jazz asked about like doing that ritual, I said it made total sense, not just because Renee was Haitian, because we don't know if she's a voodooist or not, but because that's such a deep part of who we are as a people. And it had to be in there. So there was nothing anodyne about it or gratuitous whatsoever. So it made perfect sense. So I gave my blessing, and so did Portia and her dancers.
Yeah, I also think so much. I think after that portal was open, I think it completely Spirit was like leading us.
Mm-hmm.
I also think Olivia during the tarot reading says something that I think she puts a spell. Basically says if Spirit doesn't want Renee to be found, then let that be. And it basically, I don't know, it created this vibrational thing for the film. And I also think Spirit was also all the way till the editing process, like we would wake up like in the middle of the night being like, oh, move this scene here and that scene there, this thing
Like
here.
Queen Gambit.
Like Queen Gambit, like playing chess on the ceiling with it. Like it became like the film was like inhabiting us at a certain point, from like the making of it till the editing, and even maybe at the end as well.
Yeah, we were saying, at least for the first few years, we're like, wow, this film really wants to be made.
Mm-hmm.
And then towards the end, we stopped feeling like the film wanted to be made.
Yeah, it's like
And
you ran out of that juice.
Yeah, the magic, it kind of was drying up, and it was like like it was Spirit also being like, this is where you're, I've gotten you this far, and this is going to be your ending.
Yeah, this is where you wrap it up.
That elder, that spirit just guiding you, and then just saying it's done, live in the world, and you birthed another baby. I mean, I don't know what you feel about children, but I love a baby. There we go. Look at that baby over there, all right? Okay. But it's so important to birth babies and then birth another one. As filmmakers, as artists, you should have your collection of your children as your projects, as what you made, and put them in the world, and then make another one. You know what I'm saying? At least with creative work. I'm not saying run out and go, get all, knocked up or familyed up, but family up with what you do, and kind of complete the circles of them. And I think just amazing that this team did that. Talk about Blackness. What do you want to teach the world about Blackness through this project? One, and then what do you want to teach the world about media and Blackness?
These are some hard-hitting questions. Usually,
Sorry.
No, I don't like seeing them in advance, but I'm like, dang, I really could have stewed on this one. Blackness.
I jumped away from the page.
No,
I had to create my own.
I love it. No, I'm like, I'm rooting for everybody Black.
Yep.
And there was, like, when I got funded, like, the goal here is, like, find Mavis Beacon, but very much it's like, I want to make my first movie, and I want to put as, like, shoehorn as many of, like, the homies and like Black folks and just like as possible before I no longer get funded. And no one ever told me to stop putting Black people in the movie, so I just kept putting them there. And yeah, on a larger scale, I think Olivia and I were very much making a film for our younger selves.
Yes.
And it felt like, growing up at the time that I did in kind of like a melting pot environment, I was missing a lot of language to figure out like why I felt othered or uncomfortable in certain spaces, or why people were being mean to me. And it would have been helpful to like think about things through an intersectional feminism lens. So in a lot of ways, this film is just providing a vocabulary for younger folks to think about cyberfeminism, think about, cyber doulas and critical fabulation and the coded gaze. And to just lay out that glossary for us to begin to discuss what's happening to us as Black people on the internet. And yeah, I also think it's interesting, like, Olivia and I are working on an archive because there was a lot we couldn't include here. And this film is about Renee Lesperance, but we also found out information about the other women who modeled this Mavis Beacon. And so, like, one of them is here in the Bay and is a life coach. One of them is an actor in New York, and one of them was a Republican politician whose platform was defunding public education. Wow. And so I'm like, Mavis Beacon is not a monolith, right? You got Renee, who scrubbed her digital footprint, like we're all over the map. And I also feel like, yeah, young Black, femme, queer girls, like we are not a monolith. it was hard pitching this project as the director, right, alongside Olivia. A lot of people kind of just put Olivia into like, oh, she's just like the sidekick, right? And like we've seen that trope in terms of like young, brilliant Black femmes. I think she calls it the Shori effect in terms of Black Panther, where it's like, yeah, we know exactly what to do with Olivia. And so I was really interested in like breaking open the expectations for people like us. I love, and this is something Olivia encouraged, like I love that you have, clearly who's the smartest person in the entire movie, decide not to go back to higher education and opt out of going to college, right? Like,
and the fact that she has an A and a B, a C, a D, and an F.
Exactly. I'm like, to me, it's like, I think what I learned from working with my collective Bufu is like, you're just making templates for people to borrow, right? Like you made a template for me. This film is a template that, some of these things are templates, right? So yeah, I include us yelling at the nonprofit bros because it's funny and cinematic, but also because I remember with my collective being in really violent spaces with white guys and like seeing people speak truth to power and being like, oh, we don't actually have to participate in respectability or professionalism. And like that changed how I moved, right? So that scene is there to show someone like, you can yell at these guys, that's okay. Thank you, yeah. And like Olivia, a prototype of being like, yeah, there's people that are experiencing medical racism and long COVID, and like that's real. That's like something also, and you're allowed to move slow in response to that. And also you can be a brilliant young technologist with your future ahead of you and choose to not participate in academia, right? So really, to me, a lot of people are like, why are there all these weird personal like parts of your movie? Like, why would we care about y'all? And I'm like, it's fine if y'all don't care about us, but for the people who have yet to find their communities and to see people role modeling, walking in their walk, I wanted to create more templates.
Can I add to that, because I want to talk about like the environment and the time that we were pitching this film, and it was during the pandemic and also George Floyd. And we know that it's not lost on us that the film was greenlit also because of George Floyd, where Hollywood woke up, right, to wanting to give opportunities to Black filmmakers to tell their stories. But we did not want to do anything that was traumatizing at the same time. We wanted to create a film. I think for me, that's why I got into the project, was we are operating in places of trauma, but we don't want to make a traumatic film. And so when we think about Blackness, we're always like put into these like images and stereotypes of like, we're suffering, we're down and out. And how do you make a film that still at the same time has levity and seriousness and not traumatizing? Because when we talk about like finding a Black woman, that could go in one direction, right? Where it's all, like it's all about like, like her trauma. And how do we avoid that and still present something that felt real to who she was? Because at the same time, as we are finding out, she wasn't like coming from a place of trauma either. And also to give her that agency of her, to choose not to tell her story. And being, for me, what I always say is that she's the quintessential Haitian woman of like being maroon and not telling her story to, just for the sake of telling her story. And her absence is actually much more powerful and much more present. And when we talk about Blackness, we don't, in our silence, we're also powerful.
That's right.
Yep, that's beautiful. Let's give it up for that one. That's lovely. Yes, and just to add on to that, Blackness is plural. There's a plural.
Yes.
There's so many facets of the diaspora, of people, of how you embrace it and deal with it, and how you actually. I think the bigger thing is accept it. And I think this film really puts a lot of color to that, all colors, all shades of Black. And I think that's really important about that process for this project to come to life. Talk about Oakland as a character. I love Oakland. Who doesn't know love? Everybody in this room must love Oakland. Right? It has a new parkway early in the week, loving it, right? Because this is us. Oh, the walls here are us, and I just really love the new Parkway for being, true to this process and keeping that space open. I mean, I was here many moons ago doing stuff, but talk about Oakland as a character and keeping they alive. Her, they, I did say it, yeah.
She's a she-they. Oakland's a she-they. Yeah, I was based in Brooklyn, and Olivia is also based in New York, so there was a version of events where this film would take place in New York, but I'm from the Bay, and I wanted to be home. I think that this place is so beautiful. I love Oakland. It was also like a little hectic. I don't know. You see the videos of like news cameras getting stolen while people are reporting, and so it'd be like
the spirituality part again. Like we were blessed this whole time. Like top down, like filming, like everywhere, all across Oakland. Nothing happened. Like
I think we were protected.
We were protected. I'm really curious. Also, this is the first time that we've had Jules on the stage, and I'm like, I feel like there were a few different phases to the project, right? And a few different shooters. And so I think Jules was there at the very beginning also while I was still figuring out how to direct. And so there were times too where it was just the two of us and no sound person and just like us like setting the iPhone down. And I think like part of it is like, in addition to like when Jules wasn't there, it's like we're a full Black crew, and then when Jules is there, Jules is an SF native and a legend here and like a political organizer, so how they move in their body is different too. What was it like for you shooting in Oakland and being out of a convertible with a very expensive camera?
It was great. It was. I remember this one shot that didn't make it into the film, where you're skating in West Oakland, and I accidentally shot it slow-mo, which was like perfect anyways.
It was
but it was top down the convertible. I'm like leaning out the back with the steady cam and probably gonna die if someone randomly hits us. But it was magical. I think something that was really beautiful about making this film was the closeness of everybody and how true to the community that we were interacting with and just like a part of. And I think it made it really easy to find joy in the process, to find what was beautiful and needed to be documented. So I think it was great. Oakland as a character is so easy to capture because she has so much to offer, and I feel like that was what made filming easy, even the most hectic of moments. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we were protected, and then also like I remember the last shoot we did in Oakland too, where like again, spirit is like clock is ticking, and so Yolanda and I were shooting that scene by Lake Merritt, where you have the drum circle, and it was like so generative, and everyone was so giving, and it was magical, and like we got so caught up filming that we didn't realize that like, oh, the sun went down, and now we have this giant camera, and like it got scary real fast. So also,
Things come out at night.
yeah, I have to say thanks to my shooters. And thanks to Getty for getting an insurance policy that really emboldened us throughout. Thanks to Neon.
Also, like during that drum circle, like Oakland as a character, I mean, it's just so interesting seeing. There was the last dancer in the drum circle who's wearing the Nelson Mandela and Malcolm X wraparound situation. She starts going into like a Yon Valou dance, like a Haitian kind of move, and it's like, wow, like, you know, being so far away from Haiti in Oakland, you find these sort of like these fragments, right, of so much of the collective Blackness, like all around the world. There's a richness here in Oakland that like makes it suitable for that in that way and inviting to Black people from all around, you know. So yeah, I always think about that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And one more question. Talk about the project, Neon's involvement of it. How did you get Neon? Everyone wants to know, like, what did you say to Neon to get it, you know? And where were you at before, and what did that do for you? I know that for me, I'll just go back to the Watermelon Woman. Ain't nobody coming up on it, you know what I'm saying? It was like, I think we got an NEA grant and that changed everything for us. And then we felt valid and we could run, you know, wild and make the film. And then we still had to look for money. But then having Neon come in, was it, talk about it, because I don't know what that meant for this project and for you. Like, was it like, you know, I'm done, like whatever, or did things change, or like them as partners? Because it's different having an established partner and not a community partner.
Yeah, it's interesting that I lucked out. I lucked out for a first-time filmmaker, I will say. I was very inspired by Spike Lee. And so I had seen, I think Jason actually probably told me about Spike Lee and how he created a bidding war for his first film. And so he went to like Michael Jordan and was like, hey, you know, we got Magic Johnson and he gave this much, and then went to Magic Johnson and was like, hey, Michael Jordan gave this much. And at the time he started that, no one had given anything, right? And eventually he like manifested that into reality. And so I very much, in the beginning of the project, Getty heard me being like, we need as many nonprofit logos on this thing so that we can get a for-profit on this thing. And so all those Sundance applications and stuff. And Neon came on unusually early. Part of that is because I was trying to get as many conversations as I could. And so I also think they understood the pitch in a way that had not ever been understood. And so like, you know, I was in conversation with some other big dogs that you would expect an independent filmmaker to want to be in conversation with. And there was also, Neon's competitor implied that the film would no longer be my own, it would be theirs. And also that, hey, you don't have to worry about your producer, it'll be our film. And I'm like, that's my mother-in-law, and we're making a film talking about the erasure of black women. So that's really interesting that you would say that. And Neon was willing to do a co-production with Getty, who had entered the picture before them. And so to me, that felt really comfortable. And it is unheard of. Like, look, I was struggling. I asked them for an extra year, and they gave it to me, and they said, you can have all the time you need. You've got a limited budget, though, so get it together. And so we definitely, like, and then it also was interesting because when you have a logo like Neon involved, and you're still trying to do grassroots things, some people also assume, like, oh, you've got it made, you don't need us. So it was an interesting dance of being like, wait, we're still DIY, and also having the support of Neon. Sometimes it works for us and sometimes it doesn't. Ultimately it worked for me. Like, if you listen to the score and if you look at the archival alone, like, this is insane, and the fact that I got to play with these things is insane. Yeah, just on an archival tip, I feel really lucky. So yeah, what I like to shout out, because I am all about transparency in the film industry, and I think people need to change it, is Neon gave me Final Cut. And there's a lot of other companies that would not have given me Final Cut as a first-time filmmaker, and I'm really excited about that.
And they support independent voices, and that's important. I mean, you know, another company that does that also was participant, and they're gone now. But Points North from Camden Film Festival is a really important organization that came on board on this project. That's where we pitched the project to Neon. And we pitched it to many others. And there were like people who were coming and talking to us from National Geographic's, ESPN, and they're like, well, is typing a sport? You know, and then everyone's
and we were like, yeah, we can make typing a sport. Yeah, typing's a
but there was
sport.
something about the project that it was quirky. No one really understood exactly what it was going to be. And sometimes, you know, that deterred some folks, but Neon stayed on. I mean, there was something about like how we were pitching it and what it was going to do, and and they just like stayed on, and we had, you know, several conversations before we signed the contract. It was like a year. We were dating for a year before we got married.
Wonderful. That's the best ever relationship ever, right? Like a date and do a little on the side. So we're going to wrap it up here with maybe one or two questions from the audience. Are there any? I see over there the person with the red sleeve. Hi. Hold on a second. Let me. I didn't know I was going to be speedy delivery here. Okay.
Thank you, Cheryl. And I think just one question.
One question, just one.
Hi. Thanks all for being here. That was so good. That was really awesome. I've been so pumped to watch this movie, and such a privilege to do it this way. Something I really resonated with what that you said in the film was talking about how, for me, like you were saying that agency and like power or justice has been about being able to tell your own story, and then someone who's been represented so many times saying no, I don't want to tell my story, and her power and choice coming from absence. I'm wondering how that impacted how you wanted to portray yourself in the film, and if you feel like that had any impact, or even just thinking about it now, how it made you think about you're constructing yourself inside the film as well.
What a great if we only get one audience question, what a good one. Thank you.
That's a great question.
Yeah, so I've been talking about the film a lot, and something that I've come to realize in talking about it so much is that this film is very much about the limitations of representational politics. And so Mavis Beacon is very much the cyber doula and the role model that I needed when I was younger and didn't know how to use a computer and was learning how to express myself. And that has kind of hit its limit in terms of utility. And now Renee is the role model I need as a 34-year-old who's been online for a few decades and is feeling weird. And so, yeah, her refusal has been such an amazing reminder. I think the intentions were pure and were very naive at the beginning of this film, where we thought the reason she hasn't spoken out is because the right people haven't asked, and we'll show up with our cameras and become best friends, and we're doing her not a favor, but we're giving her a platform, So I think that had she actually manifested and done this interview, I personally wouldn't have learned very much. And also the template I would be creating is one of encouraging audiences to go bug people. So I'm glad that it worked out this way. And it's also, it's kind of a bittersweet thing, this realization of I think Olivia and I, we had to, in the place that Renee didn't participate, we had to offer ourselves up, right? And we fully opted into that. But at the same time that we've learned about parasocial relationships, we're enabling parasocial relationships to happen on a mass scale, right? And so we had to flatten ourselves for the film to work. And we have to decide what happens for us after, right? It's we have opportunity. We could make a spin-off show being sleuths, and it's is that what we want to do? And so, yeah, I actually feel I'm promoting this movie right now. I kind of need to be online, but after that, I might scrub my digital footprint. I might take a step back. And
is that what you're gonna do?
Probably not.
Okay,
obviously.
all right. What are you gonna do? That's the last thing. What are y'all doing next? Because we all know we want to support that project, right? So
we're gonna make a toolkit for people who are freaked out by this and want to scrub their digital footprints. I am really interested in continuing to make films. Never another personal documentary. They've seen enough of me. AI has enough images of my face to make 1 million deep fakes now. I'm good on that. And yeah, we want to share the archives of all the things we found. So a lot of things to come. I don't want to flatten myself further. I don't know. Whoever has the highest budget for us to follow our biggest dreams will win out.